Hi guys, my name is LC
My name is JT.
and welcome to episode 2 of F1 for Beginners. In this episode we're going to talk about the evolution of the Formula 1 car and how the look differed between the 1950s and the present day. We're also going to be talking about the drivers and the constructors championships, the points on offer and what they mean towards the end of the season and so on. So firstly we're going to start about the evolution of the Formula 1 car. As I said in my episode 1, Formula 1 has been going since the early 1900s, and at that time they were almost like a go-kart, a much dangerous go-kart. So using 1915 as an example, when Formula 1 was televised as an actual motorsport, the cars were like Beetles with bus driver steering wheels. Very dangerous, as the driver almost sat in a perfect sitting upright position with a massive steering wheel in front. He also sat with a driver called their race engineer. Before the mirrors were introduced on the Formula 1 car, the race engineer would sit next to the driver, turning his head frequently during the race, warning the drivers of obstructions ahead, to the side or behind in the car. So nowadays, obviously Formula 1 cars look very very fast and so on, and they've changed a lot over the years. Now, even in the 1970s and things like that, obviously the aerodynamicists were always working on ways to get the car as low as possible to the ground, as light and as aerodynamic, so the wind would pass over it with very little ease, so the car would travel faster. There is obviously one of the massive things that's changed over the years. The introduction of carbon fibre bodies was around in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and that really changed Formula 1 for the better, because it gave the cars were much lighter and faster on the track, obviously, because the drag and the weight was taken out of it. Another thing that's changed is the engines, the gearbox, the transmissions, and most of the heavy-duty things that have been in the cars. Now, the engines have changed over the years. At the moment, we are running a 1.6 litre V6 engine, and in the old the engines have subsequently got bigger, more powerful, and louder as the times have progressed. The V6 was introduced back. The V6 turbo was introduced back in 2014. Now, before that, we used a V8 engine. That replaced the V10s around the early 2000s. That was probably when the Formula 1 cars were at its loudest and its most ear-piercing. And to me, obviously, as a Formula 1 fan, and JT as well, that's what we want to see. And every time when I go to a race, using Silverstone example, when I go to Silverstone in 2016 in July, I really wish the cars were not as loud, because they probably are as loud, but the decibel count is lower. It's more of a boomer noise to what was like an ear shattering noise. But obviously, as Formula 1 fans, that's what we wanted. So the engines have changed a lot. Subsequently, the turbo as well. Now, in the 1980s, turbochargers were on with the engines to make them more powerful, more efficient, to eliminate things like throttle lifting, time, and made obviously Formula 1 a very fast and enjoyable sport. Now, that was reintroduced in 2014 to add more of a challenge to the cars. Now, in the olden days, we never had things like energy recovery systems or anything like that, but when ERS was introduced, that was almost another challenge for the teams to battle on the cars. ERS is, in my view, it was replaced by a system called KERS, which was Kinetic Energy Recovery System. Now, this was introduced in 2010, if I'm correct, and it was a way of the driver would have around 8 to 10 seconds of power. Now, this power would be saved by the braking, heavy under braking, the heat, and it would be allowed 8 to 10 seconds in lap. Now, this was very enjoyable because the drivers could control when they could use it, which means that they normally use it on their starts, and it would be reset every lap as well. It would also be reset by the race engineers and the FIA that would control if they were using it right. Now, ERS replaced that, which is now an involuntary thing, which means the drivers can't control it. It is just used in the car. The battery which stores the ERS, is then just applied to the engine every lap. Now, if you have an ERS failure, which we have seen some drivers have, that is a massive blow to the race, because you haven't got that power, which adds around, I think it's about 80 horsepower a lap for around about 12 to 14 seconds. So again, more than the KERS. The third thing is the DRS, the drag reduction system. Now this is a a rear wing that will lift up, obviously making the car more aerodynamic. As the rear wing at the moment, as you can see, it hits. The wind will hit there, but as this is lifted, it will then flow underneath, making the car more aerodynamic. This can be controlled in a DRS activation zone. There's normally one or two of these on the track. Now, when you go past the DRS activation zone, you have to be within 1 second of the car in front. This is a rule. It also promotes overtaking, because if you are coming up to a car as you were 1 second behind within that 1 second zone, and you open DRS, it then will healthily promote an overtaking, which as Formula 1 fans we always want to see some great overtaking, some fantastic racing, if you like. So when you see Formula 1 cars at the moment, they're very light, very low down to the ground, very central, very good centre of gravity, but very, very, very light and powerful. The engine size has smallened since the dawn in the 1970s and 1980s, but the faster is because of the weight is significantly reduced. At the moment, the cars weigh 750 kilograms. That is different to in the 1980s, when cars would weigh many tons, which means the engines had to be incredibly powerful to counteract that weight that the drivers would have. As you can see, then the drivers sit more downwards for their centre of gravity, a very low aerodynamicist view of the car, which helps obviously to put out that weight. It's mainly in Formula 1. It's mainly about the weight and counteracting the two forces that go against the car, which is drag and weight. So now, obviously, it's all about speed, how they design the cars every year, and that's why aerodynamicists in the R&D department of teams is incredibly important, because they want to get that fine line between aerodynamics efficiency and power to weight, fantastic in the car, and that's what the teams are always working on. If anything, that's why people like Adrian Newey, Ross Brawn back in the day, and aerodynamicists and R&D chief designers of the car and technicians have thrived, because they've been able to get that power to weight ratio perfectly right. For example, now that we can see the Mercedes pairing their chief aerodynamicists, their technician department and their R&D are making it fantastic, because they're getting the power to weight right, they're getting their chassis right, they're getting the car perfectly right, as the example using Adrian Newey with Red Bull. So that's about the evolution of the car. It's the power to weight ratio and the aerodynamics around it. Obviously, again, it's a very scientific, very very knowledgeable sport. It's something that, unlike football, you have to really think about and get more behind. So that's obviously again the car, but in a race day, what is more important to you guys? And it's so at the moment we have 22 drivers on the grid, and when they win a race, and also the teams win a race, what do they get in return, and what does that entail? And now JT is going to go into about the points, the drivers and the constructors, and how do they differ. JT?
Thank you very much, LC. Very well demonstrated. Now, in Formula 1, if you want to learn more about the sport, hand over back to you.
Thank you, JT. That was very, very well done. Wrapping it up, it's obviously very complicated between the drivers and the constructors and things like that. But as JT mentioned, yeah, top teams, so top 10 out of 11 get money. The 11th place doesn't, and how does that really work? But we are going to go into that in more detail now. Obviously, the point of this channel is for you out there to understand a bit more about the inside of Formula One, and hopefully that we have done our job in this episode. Please catch us tomorrow for our next episode, episode 3 for F1 for Dummies, and also keep liking and watching our channel, the F1 Debate Show, on YouTube. We're also on Facebook, where we share our videos, so just keep updated with that. You can find links and things all around. We have annotations on which say for other videos, and to subscribe to the F1 Debate Show. So thanks for watching this video, guys. Catch us on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. See you later.